my friends, Shay here. So, pardon my non-makeup face, but I really wanted to get this video up to you guys. So, let's go ahead and dive right in. This is my most recent wrap-up. I didn't do one technically for the end of May, because by the time I finished Love in the Night, I didn't really have anything else before June started, so I'm counting that as kind of like my end of May wrap-up. So this is everything that I've read so far in the month of June, which, happy Pride. My manga reading will definitely reflect Pride. I've read mostly LGBT titles in my manga space this month, which I'm really happy to do. I had a bunch on my backlog, so I was using June as kind of a catch-up so that I was current on some of them that I've been sitting on. But this opening has been awfully rambly and long, so let's just dive right in. We're going to start with the manga, end with the books. There will be timestamps down below if you need them, so let's go ahead and dive in. So let's start with the most obvious one, and that is Yona of the Dawn Volume 30. I would die for these two if they were actual human beings. I love this series. I love them. I love what was going on here. Watching Hawk almost go feral because someone had taken Yona from him was quite a sight between Volume 29 and this one. You see a side of Hawk that had clearly been reined in by Yona without anybody even knowing. And he's just my king. She's my queen. I love them. They could conquer the world and I would bow at their feet. I just love them. I love this series and it is truly amazing. I highly recommend checking out Yona of the Dawn if you haven't. I sing its praises constantly. Y'all know that, but yes. Please go read Yona. All right, next up we have Takane and Hana Volume 17, which is the penultimate volume. There's only one more left. And I really love the shenanigans that led to the end of this volume, which does lead to them being married. I'm going to say that right now. They are married by the end of this volume. And yes, so it's really interesting. I love the dynamic that Takane and Hana have together. Yes, this is an age gap. A lot of people don't feel great about this age gap. But for me, because it's been fueled by humor, not by seriousness, it's been a lot easier to digest and enjoy. So I know this series isn't for everybody, but man, I really do love it. Say what you want about me, but I love it. Real quick before I jump into all my LGBT reads, there was one night where I couldn't read, so I was just reading off my Kindle, and I read the first 5 volumes of Defying Kurosaki-Kun, and I have very mixed feelings about this series. So this is a giant mess love triangle between these two guys who are liking the same girl, but one of them seems to only like her because the guy who doesn't normally like anybody likes her, and it kind of has almost a dom-sub kind of undertone to it as well. So it's really weird and really interesting, but I kind of love it. And so, like I say, I continue to have mixed feelings about it, but I've been checking this one out from Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, I recommend checking out Defying Kurosaki-Kun. The art style is fantastic, and I do really kind of enjoy the direction of the story. I'm just really curious to see what's going to happen because I know this series is like 15 or so volumes long. It's a long one, so this is going to be a long dynamic. So I'm really intrigued to see how it's going to go from here. So knowing that, let's move on to my LGBT manga titles for the month so far. So first up here, I have Volume 3 of How Do We Relationship. This is a Yuri title where we have two girls in college who kind of meet as friends, and they had both come out as homosexual before getting to college. And so they're like, well, why don't we try dating each other? And so this is kind of about finding what you need and want in a partner in life. And so it's a really interesting dynamic. So we have Seiko here, who's still very closed off and almost like she's been made to feel shame for being homosexual for so long that she has a hard time allowing herself to enjoy sexual relations with her girlfriend. And so it's a really interesting dynamic, and I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to continue to play out, because Seiko, like, we have her inner monologue, obviously, so we know everything that's going on, and she's let little bits slip out to Miwa, her girlfriend. But Miwa's starting to pick up on that there's more here, but I really love Miwa. Seiko, I think, needs to learn to love herself before she can really be in a relationship. And so I have a feeling that's kind of how this one's going to go, but I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out continuing forward. Next was one that was surprisingly really sweet, and that is our Not So Lonely Travel Guide. Lonely Planet Travel Guide, sorry. We have Asahi and Mitsuki. So Asahi quit his job. I think he's like sick or ill or was in the hospital for a long time. So he tells his boyfriend, Asahi tells Mitsuki, that he'll marry him if they go on a trip around the world together first. So they're going on this like worldwide travel so that they can get married, and it is so sweet and so cute. And Asahi, this guy, like, he doesn't travel well. And so this is clearly like a labor of love for him, and it's just so sweet to watch them. Like, they're just so adorable and cute, and like, I just really enjoy their dynamic. I cannot wait to read more of this one. Like, they are sweet and precious, and I adore them, and I highly recommend reading this one if you haven't. Okay, I'm so excited to talk about this one. So I read I Think Our Son is Gay, Volume 1. And in this one, we're primarily following the mother's perspective in the Aoyama, I believe. Yeah, Aoyama residence. Dad seems to travel for work a lot, so he's not home a lot. So it's mainly the mom and her older teenage son and then her younger son. The older teenage son is talking about being gay kind of just around mom, and mom's picking up on all the things that indicate that he probably is, but he has not officially come out to her. And so she's just doing everything she can to be supportive and love him and encourage him to be his best self. The problem is that when Dad's home, Dad said some really ignorant and rude things about LGBT people, so the son is definitely not comfortable when Dad's home. And so she's trying to find that balance of, how do I bring this up to my husband without him getting upset and going and confronting my son who hasn't come out yet? And so it's this tightrope she has to walk. And this is really so beautifully done in a slice of life kind of fashion. And I'm really excited to continue this one. This is one that I definitely want everybody to try to read, because this isn't going to be a bonkers manga at all. I read a lot of bonkers manga and y'all know it. But this one is just sweet and to the point about a mom who's trying to do what's best for her son while also being a good wife and trying to figure out how to have that balance. And it's beautiful, and I love it. And I love that she loves her son no matter what, because that is the most important thing. And this is precious. Please read it. Next up on the list is My Summer of You by Nagisa Furuya. This is volume 1, The Summer of You. And then there's another one where I believe there's a time skip in their adults. So in this one, they're high school students, they're best friends, and, well, they're not best friends. They share a common hobby of watching movies. And so they form a friendship and they start to spend a lot more time together, and they look forward to spending time together, and one confesses, and so the other starts to kind of look at their feelings for the other person to see if they're romantic or not. And it's really interesting because it's not as poignant as Blue Flag, but it kind of gives me a little bit of those vibes in a smaller context. So I highly recommend checking out this series. The art is absolutely stunning, and we love that this series has been published for us in the US. So please support this one. This one's from Kodansha. I'm not sure if this one made it onto their like Kindle Unlimited list, but Kodansha always has their titles available digitally and physically. So if you're a digital collector, you can do it that way as well. And then last but not least for the manga titles, we have Cherry Magic. I read the first 3 volumes, which is all that is out of this series right now. I do have a dedicated video to this because this is my most recent try 3. So you will be seeing that soon. So I will not share my thoughts here. I will save it for that video, but do know that these were read. And when that video is ready, I will link it in the corner. So from this point on, we're going to be talking about the books that I've read. I have about 3 physical reads that I've completed, and then the rest are going to be digital, mostly via audio. So let's dive in. So first up, we have Secret Crush Seduction by Jayci Lee. This one has Adelaide, a fashion designer. She just is wanting to prove herself as more than an heiress. She wants to prove herself as her own individual, not who she grew up as. So she recruits the help of her brother's best friend, Michael, who she's always had a crush on, and things kind of move forward from there. And this one's so short, I don't want to say too much, but I really enjoyed the dynamic between these two. Like childhood friends to lovers, brother's best friend situation. I don't always get along with the brother's best friend situation, but I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really well handled. So I do recommend trying this one out if you haven't. Next up, I read Witchling by Yasmine Galenorn for a live show that I did on Nicole's channel, who picked this book. I'll leave that linked in the corner. And we all kind of didn't get along with everything in the book. I mean, this is clearly a product of its time. But with that said, I'm morbidly curious, so I have started the second book in this series. So I will share more as things go forward. But if you want my full thoughts on this book, you can check out the live show. We only talk about the book for like a little bit, and then the rest is just fun shenanigans. So it's a fun stream to watch. And then I did read The Forever Girl by Jill Shalvis. I buddy read this with my girl Lindsay over at Lindsay Tut. And this just, anytime I read Jill Shalvis, I'm just happy and I really enjoy it. So I gave this one 5 stars. I really love the sweet, poignant stories that Jill Shalvis tends to tell. I know she's not for everybody because they're not as high angst as some others, but I still really enjoy them. I really just have a great time every time I'm reading a Jill Shalvis book. So basically, this one has a group of friends that were torn apart by tragedy early on in their life, and now a wedding has kind of brought them all back together, and it's all their stories, and it's just so sweet. And this is one of the Wild Stone books. I really like the Wild Stone books as well. So yes, highly recommend checking out Jill Shalvis if you have it. Speaking of Jill Shalvis, I did go ahead and read Love for Beginners, which is the next book in the Wild Stone stories. And I gave that one also 5 stars. This is her most recent release. I really enjoyed it, really loved it. But like I say, I really enjoyed Jill Shalvis's writing. So I do recommend picking, honestly, you can read all of her books as standalones. There are little Easter eggs if you read them in order, but I don't think it's necessary. I do highly recommend checking out some of her writing, and if it gets along with you, like, you've got a whole huge backlist to go through. I'm still going through her backlist, but I really just love them. They feel like palette cleansers, so I read them every month or so with Lindsay, and we just have a good time when we read them, so I highly recommend checking her out. Next up, we have Once Upon a Puppy by Lizzie Shane. This is the second book in the Pine Hollow series. In this one, we have a grumpy sunshine situation, and it is absolutely fantastic. I really love their dynamic, and it does all center around dogs, and our sunshine person has wanderlust as well, or at least they feel they do, and so they constantly are taking off and traveling, and they're not really settling down and putting down roots anywhere. And he is the person who wants the perfect life partner. He thinks he knows what he wants through life. And the course of them coming together throughout this book is fantastic. I absolutely loved it. We do have a fake dating trope in here as well, so do know that. And it just is a bunch of things that I really loved and adored. So I highly recommend checking out Once Upon a Puppy by Lizzie Shane. Next up, we have A Lowcountry Guide by Preslaysa Williams, I think is how you say that first name. I'm sorry if I completely butchered that. In this one, we have a woman who has a disease. I want to say it's sickle cell. And so she knows that her life kind of has a short timeline. And so her goal was to become a New York wedding dress fashion designer. And so she's worked with the top person, but they continue to like take away their designs and all these kinds of things. Like they never approve of them. And so her dad gets injured and it's just her and her dad. And so she goes down to kind of take some time off and take care of him. And it's so interesting because she ends up falling for a guy who owns a bridal shop because it's his mother's like legacy, and he has a daughter that he's kind of estranged from, and he's trying to connect with her better, and he doesn't know how to do that because, again, we're kind of dealing with a grumpy sunshine situation, and the whole dynamic is great. The aspect of race is present, but our female lead is really good to call out people on their awful behavior when it comes to their racism. And she is half black, half Filipino. And so we get that representation in her designs, and it's really a well done book. I really enjoyed reading it. I ended up giving it like a 4-star. Really enjoyed it. I really would recommend picking this up. It was a pleasant surprise, and I really enjoyed the dynamic between them and how the daughter came into the relationship, because she was ever present, but not overly so. Like, she was definitely part of what they were doing in their relationship. And I think that was good because she is a teenager. So it worked out really well that way. Next we have Rocky Mountain Heat by Vivian Arend, I think is how you say that last name. This one was kind of messy. I felt like it was trying to do a little bit too much. We were following too many threads, too many strands, in my opinion. I ended up giving this one a 3.5 star. We did have a menage moment with one of the younger brothers and his girlfriend. I'm not sure they're gonna stay together though, but it makes him kind of evaluate where he's at sexually. So it's really interesting to see that brought in early in the series because we haven't even gotten to his book yet. But on this one, we primarily follow the oldest brother and kind of there's this girl that was basically kind of pseudo-adopted by all these boys just because she spent a lot of time at their house with their mom. And like, he discovered that he found her very attractive when she was still like underage, and nothing happened. Well, I guess something does. She got drunk and she left one of the rodeos. He took her home, and you know, in her drunken stupor, she thought it was her boyfriend that was his brother, and it wasn't. And yeah, anyways, but this is a heavy book that's trying to do a lot, so know that going in. I'm not sure if I'm gonna continue. I might. I don't know. I got this one like for free on BookBub or something. But yeah, I'm still on the fence of whether I'm going to continue or not. I'm going to look up reviews for the other books in the series and see if I want to continue. With that said, the last 5 books I have to talk to you about are 5 books from the Immortals After Dark series. So I read Kiss of a Demon King, The Warlord Once Forever, Untouchable, Pleasure of a Dark Prince, and Demon from the Dark. I'm just kind of really barreling through the Immortals After Dark series right now. I'm really enjoying my time in the world. This is a paranormal romance series, obviously, and I'm just really loving it. I mean, like, these guys are alpha, and there's problems with the, you know, representation and whatever, but I'm thriving on the dynamics. I think they're great. My least favorite of this bunch, though, was definitely Untouchable. There was icicle sex, and that's just a hard pass for me. No, thank you. So with that said, each one of those got between 4 and 5 stars. I really had a great time. I think my favorite out of this bunch was Pleasure of a Dark Prince or Demon from the Dark. I want to say Demon from the Dark. That's what my brain wants to say. Malcolm and Caro's book. Whichever one that is. That's the one that I love the most out of this bunch. So with that said, that's all I have. That's all I've read so far in June. Let me know in the comments down below what you've been reading this month. And if you aren't much of a reader and you're just here because you love me, why don't you drop me a rainbow emoji because it's Pride. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.